20% of every dollar spent in the global economy today is spent spent for and by criminal enterprises. So it is a global network, but it goes beyond Mexico and Guatemala and Honduras. It's essentially a global phenomenon. And for anyone to say that it's just crime and not terrorism is fooling themselves. It is both. And the other chuckle I had to have was when we had this long, turgid conversation earlier about, well, you know, it's really not ideological. Of course it's ideological. It's very ideological. It's an existential sort of ideology that has cranked up most of the ideological bad stories over the last 250 years. It's tied together by criminal enterprise and by the flow of mostly narco money. But it involves everything you can imagine, and a lot of those were mentioned earlier: kidnapping, white slavery, and all these other horrible acts, criminal acts that permeate the world. And it is an ideology. And then for that, I agree with Steve McCraw. Coercion, kidnapping, assault, rape, you name it. And the other point that we made in passing last time, that turned out to be true among the other things that we said in our report, is that this type of criminal enterprise is coming to a neighborhood near you. All you have to look at is Rahm Emanuel's Chicago today. And at latest count, 409 murders, 324 of those tied to criminal gangs and the cartel. My God, when we wrote our report, even the FBI, notorious for cooking the books, said that narco-terrorism was in 1,000 U.S. cities. Their latest report is it's in 2,400 U.S. 2,400. That's the FBI report, which is probably about half of where it really is. And if that's true, then all of a sudden narco-terrorism is becoming something different this year than it was last year. Now it's become not only a global enterprise, but within the United States it's become a retail enterprise. All you have to do is look at the 20s and 30s during the days of Prohibition to see what happened when a criminal enterprise goes from strategic to operational to tactical. When it goes from wholesale to retail, you cannot get it back. The other thing that just drives me nuts is that particularly the federal government is just absolutely obsessed in not tying the infusion of immigrants and cross-border and border-crossing individuals to terrorism. They go to extraordinary lengths to show that, oh well, that Iranian or that member of Hezbollah really has no malintent. Oh really? I disagree with the Admiral in that I think that the next major enterprise, first of all, is pretty much already set up here, well-financed and hidden in one of our major cities. And it won't be medical waste. It'll be a nuclear weapon. That's the nightmare scenario. And if you're going to get a nuclear weapon in this country, a country that looks at 35 to 50 of the 5,000 trucks a day that cross into our border, I could almost guarantee you that it's not going to come by boat through Baltimore, but it's going to come through our southern border. The other observation I'll make is one of the characteristics of irregular warfare is that the enemy has a vote, and they tend to adopt more than conventional forces. Considering that you guys are conventional forces, that's true. Now, while some of the things I can't say are probably still classified, I will say this. The narco-terrorists are changing their recruiting tactics. They're not going for the young Mexican kid in a Texas prison with earrings and tattoos. They're seeking to recruit attractive young females and Anglo blonde-haired, blue-eyed males in order to be able to continue their enterprises without having to worry about being pulled over on Texas highways. I got 2 minutes. I'm usually pretty good at this. I'm just getting curious. The bottom line is this, and let me get to the bottom line. This is not going well. that our attempts, in spite of what the administration has said about how effective they are at border control, they aren't. The three-lettered federal agencies that pledged to protect our borders are doing two things very badly. Number one is they're hiding the truth. Number two, many of those who guard the border are poorly selected, they're poorly deployed, they have ridiculous rules of engagement which restricts them to the road networks when the enemy chooses not to go there. They're poorly led, and most importantly, they're poorly disciplined. The Admiral mentioned this earlier, this issue of corruption. We've never, ever had to deal with this before in such a horrific manner, $50 to $80 billion a year. Some of that money is going for corruption, and yet there's little or no serious effort that I can see by the federal regulatory agencies to detect that corruption, not only in the federal agencies, but others as well. But the thing that bothers me most about all of this is the fact that the federal agencies are hiding the truth. I have talked to, and my business partner, Jack Pryor, he's here somewhere, there he is, has talked to literally hundreds of border sheriffs, local population, and talked to middle management off the record from federal agencies about what's going on, and how serious the problem is, and how terrible the corruption is, and how the cartels are extending their reach into our country to the degree they are. And the statistics and the anecdotal evidence simply don't line up. And there's very little that I can see that the media is doing about it. So what are we going to do about it? Well, I think there's very little you can do about it at this stage. I think that the terrorists have gone retail. I think that the transnational connections are firm. I think the cartels are into our major cities where they're going to have to be rooted out, branch and root, and it's going to take decades to do it. I think the corruption in the federal and in some state agencies is so pervasive that it simply can't be turned around, certainly not in my lifetime and probably not in yours. Thank you.